Hey, welcome back to 7-Minute Stories. And tonight we're going to start at the very beginning, aren't we?
Yes.
It's a very good place to start. So you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. My name is Pam Balkcom, elderly, coming up on being a senior.
Stop.
Yes. Let's see where to start. Beginning. Grew up in a broken home. Loving family, friends, but it was a broken home. All of my parents, my step-parents, looking back, just doing the best that they could for us. I was subject to abuse by a close family member. It progressed for several years. What's funny when I look back is I don't think I was ever angry or upset with anybody but myself, which maybe it's normal, but I didn't think about it in any other way other than something's wrong with me. I've done something wrong, or I've progressed somewhere. From there, when I finally started to speak out about it, there was that instant where there's that doubt. I was rebellious, acting out, wanting attention. And it's not so much looking back at doubt for me, but it was a fact of it's really hard to believe. It's really hard to see that something like that happened under somebody's nose for so long. And they have their guilt and their denial. And I took responsibility for that too. Like, it's my fault that they feel bad now, or it's my fault that they're angry. And just kind of that sits on a slow boil. So I'm a bad kid. Just, once again, something wrong with me. And the people around me are now unhappy. They're struggling to deal, and that's my fault because I'm not helping them deal with that. So things it's just the stress and the tension and trying, and I just ran away. I can't be in this home. I can't be in this environment, and I'm going to run away. And we look back and we laugh now because I was a horrible delinquent because I ran away from home, but I stayed in school. I still went to school every day. I didn't.
Worst runaway ever.
I was the worst runaway ever. And my mom, bless her heart, because she never knew where I was at or where I was staying. I refused to say. And I think she knew if she showed up at school and she forced me to come home, I'm just going to run away again. But I went to school every stinking day. I kept up my grades. I wasn't gonna fail. I wanted drugs and alcohol. I really, really wanted drugs and alcohol. I saw people around me that could forget. They would just, and to me, it looked like that was peace. And I wanted that. I wanted the thoughts out of my head. I wanted to stop thinking. And I was horrible at that too. I couldn't bring myself to do it, and I thank God for that, because I think He was on my heart, and He was saying, you can act out and you can do these things, but you will not do that. You just, I won't allow it. You won't. And there was a fear every time the opportunity presented itself and I could do it. There was just this fear, and I couldn't take that step. I couldn't go down that. And a lot of times I thought it was a case of, if I did that, then I would be out of control, and I wouldn't have that control over myself. And I would think I'm doing one thing and finding out later that I was doing something else. So I fooled myself and thought, I'm in control. I'm the boss of me. I'm going to make my own decisions, and I'm going to decide who I relate to and how I relate to them, and put my big girl pants on and just do what I wanted to do. I graduated at 17. After therapy and working things out with my family, moving back home, Mom pretty much had said, you're here, this is my home, these are my rules, and if you don't like it, you can move out, but you're either going to be 18 or graduate first. And I went, fine, I'll graduate. And I doubled down on everything and graduated early. And she was horrified to come home. She's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I have a roommate, have an apartment, moving out. I do my own thing. I have a job. And again, responsible, but
rebellion through responsibility.
Right. And doing all of those things as an adult that I thought I was supposed to do. Sorry. Looking back, poor relationships. By me just denying my path in life and what God wanted for me, and thinking that I'm making my choices, I made horrible choices. I put myself in situations where I'm being used all over again. I'm being abused all over again, and not seeing it. I'm like, why didn't this one work out? Okay, well, let's go on to this one. Well, this one doesn't work out either. And it wasn't until I ended up pregnant, and then got married, had feelings that this maybe isn't where I want to be, but I did it anyway. It wasn't a year goes by, and like this is one of the worst relationships I've ever been in. This is horrible. And we decided we're just going to go our separate ways. This isn't working. And I was crushed, because I go from being a bad kid to being a bad runaway to being a bad wife. And I'm failing every single step of the way. I'm failing. And the next fear was, I'm going to be a bad mom. And I couldn't fail there. I'm not going to fail there. And I struggled and I prayed, and I just couldn't understand why, if I had a good heart and I wanted the best for people around me, why wasn't it working out? Why was nothing working out? And I wrote it down because it's been a long, long time since I went back to this verse. And I found it by accident. I was just sitting with my son, feeling sorry for myself, and I came across Ephesians 4, where it said, get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. And at the time, I didn't think I was bitter or angry. I was living my life. I was doing the things I wanted to do. And sitting in the dark thinking about it, I'm like, you're a bitter person. And I found myself getting, was turning into this cold, hard shell, where I thought I had relationships, I thought I had friends, but looking back, I didn't have those things. And I finally just broke down and said, okay, I give up. What do you want me to do? And I'll do it. And I forgave the people in the past that had hurt me. I forgave my ex-husband, who was in the process of trying to make my life miserable. And just let it go. And there's a peace with that I'm not carrying this anchor. I don't have this shadow following me everywhere I go, just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, because I'm hanging on to grudges that I really didn't realize I was hanging on to.
So tell me a little bit more about that. You're talking about you just finally let it go, you forgave. What was that for you? Like, was it replacing a truth with a lie? Was it changing the way that you saw somebody? What was that piece for you?
The piece for me was just realizing that I was carrying a burden that wasn't mine to carry. And if I could let that go and realize that my bad decisions then are forgiven, that my poor choices are forgiven, and I could stop punishing myself, and in lieu of that, punishing those around me. what I found when I did that, and was just, it was freeing, and I was, you're not just overjoyed happy, but I was happy. And then had to re-explain myself to friends and family that they weren't ready to let go. They weren't ready to stop being angry on my behalf. And it was almost like my forgiving those people that hurt me and did things to me. Now I'm betraying them because I'm not punishing, and I'm not still angry, and I'm not still bitter. And they weren't ready to let go of that.
What an incredible thing, though. Like, and just a couple of things that you said. One was that when you are, when you're doing that to yourself, you end up directing that towards other people. And that is so true. And we end up creating our toxic environments. But what you're saying there is that sometimes when you have freedom of that, when you get freedom from guilt and shame, and so some people, they don't
want to.
Yeah, they don't want to get free, but they also don't want you to be free. They want to drag you back into that because it somehow puts condemnation on them.
Yes. And to explain, and people, well, how can you forgive? Knowing the details and knowing what life was like, that doesn't make any sense. How can you let go of that? And how can you be happy letting go of that?
And I'm going to be bitter on your behalf.
Exactly. Yeah. And they think that they're standing up for you and they're defending you, but they just make it difficult. And to explain it, no, Jesus has said, this is what he has said. And by me doing this, I become a better person. I am living the life that I was supposed to live. And I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And I'm happy being there. And there's things that, would I change decisions? Oh, every day. Would I change things that happen? Absolutely. But some of those things help me be who I am. And they help me relate to other people and other things. And I laugh because in doing that, God put a man in my life that scared the dickens out of me. He was the complete opposite of anything I'd ever had in my life. And I felt, and it made me feel, and it scared me to death. And I just, no, this is almost like a too good to be true thing. And he was a man who loved God, and he loved his mom in that order. And
I don't deserve that.
And I don't deserve that.
Yeah.
And he loved me, and he loved my son. And he's like, this is where we're going. And he laid it all out, whether I wanted it, this is, where we're going. And it went from then he loved God to he loved me, to he loved my son, to he loved his mom. And he walks that with me every day. And I was doing the math the other day, it's coming up, and this month will be 33 years that we have been married. And when I look at the fact that we gave our children a home, and a complete home, and without God and without that foundation, and without that, I don't think that we would have ever accomplished that. And it's not to say that life is perfect, because it's certainly not. And I don't think that God ever promised me that it would be easy. And sometimes, honestly, it's not. But he laid out for me where I needed to go and the path I needed to take. And by just almost not only say giving up, but just giving in and say, okay, this is your will, and I'm done fighting, and I'm done running away, and I'm going to do what you need me to do. And I don't regret that ever. I have managed to rebuild those relationships and have memories that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And to also bring those people to see, if Jesus can bring this kind of peace in my life and this kind of forgiveness, and that I can do that and go on. And there's no pretending that things didn't happen, because they did, and that's life. But I don't have that weight. I truly don't have that weight. And I'm thankful for that, above all, that I don't.
Well, I feel like that's what the definition of when we talk about redemption is, that where it's like not only are we cleansed, but we become curse breakers for our children. We leave things better. It's like, like you said, you went from I grew up in a broken home to we provided our kids a full and
full
stable.
home.
Yeah.
And I don't even really think about it like that either, is that I wasn't, I didn't fail at everything. I just failed until I realized that I wasn't in the control that I thought I was in. That I'm not the boss of me, basically.
Yeah.
God's the boss of me, and he's gonna give you that rope to make those decisions. But in the end, you need to realize that you need to come back to where you belong.
Well, I love your story, and thank you for being so transparent and coming in and sharing it.
I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. I
love
really
it.
do.
I think it's going to encourage people. And like I said, I love hearing those stories where this is what God has brought me from, and where God gets a hold of you, and Jesus just radically changes your life, and all of those things that you get to feel worthy. You get to change your identity of who you are.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
Thank you for coming in, Pam. We'll see you guys here next time on 7 Minute Stories.